What's up, everyone? Jazz Berganza, What's Next? Your daily dose, common sense, facts, and salt. Hope you guys are feeling good today. Of course, this is the weekend edition, and I'm getting off to a late afternoon start. But none of the usual intros on this one, none of the usual cutscenes that you guys are familiar with. This is a straight-up reactionary video. Bill Whittle, who, if you're not familiar with, he is a YouTube commentator, conservative. He's been doing this for many a year. Also, in this video with Scott Ott, who is a former delegate out of Delaware, and of course Stephen Green, who has his own website called Vodka Pundit. These three have been doing this for many a year in regards to conservative talk, everything from pop culture to politics and everything in between. I'm not going to concentrate on the entire hour. I'm going to concentrate on about 6 to 7 minutes, and it pretty much crystallizes everything that I just introed you with, and then you'll get my thoughts. So here we go.
So let me ask you another hypothetical. Do you believe that the January 6th people that have been imprisoned, do you believe that they are unjustly imprisoned?
I honestly don't know enough about their cases or what they're imprisoned for. I haven't.
For trespassing for 4 years, which seems a bit
Yeah, that
steep.
seems like a long sentence for trespassing.
The not looking backward thing is, let's just say Donald Trump wins the election and let's just say we win the House and the Senate, just to make it a nice crystal clear argument.
Which would be nice.
The not looking back argument says we free these people immediately, right? The people that they were unjustly convicted, and we free them immediately. But then the question becomes, what about the people that imprisoned them under false circumstances? Just stay with the premise. You don't have to necessarily,
Sure.
I'm not committing you to agree with me, but I believe they were imprisoned under false pretenses. If your position is going to be, well, we're going to free the people who were unjustly imprisoned, but we are not going to go after the people that unjustly imprisoned them, then that to me is not justice.
I'm not saying don't pursue. I'm going to buy the assumption that there was unjust imprisonment and that there are individual people that we can put our finger on and say that guy was one of the ones who did it, and he must pay a price. So I'm going to assume all that. Okay, if you stand up in public and say, we're going to go get those SOBs who unjustly imprisoned the poor, innocent Capitol people who on January 6th just wanted to exercise their freedom of speech, then you rally one group of the American public around you, but you alienate another. We as the Justice Department are tasked with helping the executive branch, the President of the United States, take care that the laws of the United States are faithfully executed. And we punish wrongdoers, and we advance the cause of justice, and that's what we do. And not make a show of it, but do the work of the law. Instead of doing the work of the mouth, where you make a big deal about what you're going to do to these people, do the work of the law. If there are people that you can press charges against, you find those people, you press charges, you prosecute them.
That's all I wanted to hear. That's all I wanted to hear.
But that's not how they do it. The politicians can't resist putting on a show and saying, we nailed those liberal SOBs who've been running this country for 30 years. Doesn't that feel good? And it doesn't feel good to about half the country. So there's no reason to rub the noses of the people who live in Danbury, Connecticut in it, when you can just go about the business of doing government right and let your actions speak for themselves.
But there's also no justice in saying, from this point forward, we are going to prosecute murderers, but people who have already murdered people just essentially get a blanket pardon, right? You're not talking about that.
No. What I'm saying is, don't start off your administration by going, okay, now we're in charge. It's time for revenge.
I agree with that as a general principle, yes. But
because you create obstacles that you don't need. Like there's no reason to give the Democrats a fundraising tool. Oh, now they're going about to execute revenge. It's great. Let's raise a bunch of money for the legal defense of all these poor people who are going to be beleaguered by this new administration, these tyrants.
But if it turns out that through the due process of law and following constitutional procedures and all of our legal guidelines and actually using them the way they were written, which is, burden of proof, and all of this stuff. If it turns out that you have criminal charges that a new attorney general believes you can win in court, then to not go after those people is to betray the election of Donald Trump and the entire idea that these stables need some cleaning.
Oh, I don't care about the so-called election of Donald Trump. That's not a cause. That's not a principle. We're there to create the best government we can, a more perfect union. And so to do that, we can't live in this perpetual state of, we'll teach those other bastards. You know, if somebody has to be able to say, look, we will prosecute when we see reasons to prosecute. We will not prosecute just to be, because we're political enemies. We're going to take cases that we think we can win, obviously, because we don't want to waste taxpayer resources.
Absolutely.
And we're not in the business of doing press releases and news conferences so we can crow about who we're nailing. We're in the business of administering justice.
Okay, good. I agree. But let's take the president of Argentina, for example, right? He was vilified as a Nazi and he's going to destroy the entire welfare state. Everybody's going to die and all the rest of it. He comes into office and in the space of several months, he turns this train wreck of a disaster around, right? And produces real results and has accomplished miracles, continues to accomplish miracles through free market
which are not miracles at all. They're just the way things work.
They're just plain common sense.
Works. He just got another good one.
But stay with me. But stay with me on this. The people in the socialist state that he dismantled are claiming that he is a lunatic who is burning down the institutions that protect the people.
Mm-hmm.
So on some level, you have to have this is not just another election. This election, and in fact, Donald Trump's entire existence is not that he's another president. He's another guy to elect who's a Republican. The Trump movement, the Make America Great movement, entirely predicated not so much even on Donald Trump as an individual, as there is something really, really, really fundamentally wrong in this country in terms of how the law is enforced and how politics take place, election integrity, all of this stuff, something fundamentally wrong. And it's not about Trump as like the next guy, because Trump's entire existence is he is the figurehead for a return to principles that have been abandoned over the course of many decades and have led us into a country that we don't recognize anymore. Yeah. And so if you don't have the revolution, much better term is if you don't have the counter-revolution, because that's what this is. We're talking about a counter-revolution. We're talking about returning to the status quo of constitutional governance. If you don't have the revolution, then it's a betrayal of the people that have been left with no choice but to vote for the counter-revolution, because we're kind of tired of watching everything that we believe in fly away.
And Trump is what you get when reasonable, if we're going to start using the less language, although Republicans, in their view, are only reasonable after they've lost or died. But Trump.
All right, my thoughts. Quickly, I'll try to go decipher this because there was a lot to unpack there. A couple of things I disagree with Scott out on. One, when it comes to J6, there were many innocents. You had a blanket arrest regarding practically everyone who appeared that day. You had even the leader of the Proud Boys and a couple of his people who weren't even in the state of Maryland. They got arrested, and the leader got hit with 18 years in the pokey because of his supposedly influence in regards to J6. Were there innocents? You absolutely, and they're sitting in the gulags right now. So I disagree with Scott on that. And of course, we know that there were innocent bloodshed, and that was one Ashley Babbitt who got ended at the hands of one Michael Byrd, former Metro cop. I think he's former, but yet not one charge. Nothing. Then you have Ray Epps, who was conducting business on videotape, telling people where to go, what to do, and yet nothing. He got hit with a misdemeanor. And so what's he doing? Well, he's suing Tucker Carlson for defamatory language. When it comes to policy versus revenge, this is a revenge tour. I've said this in prior videos before. When they decided to choose Trump over DeSantis in the Iowa caucuses, that was the signal that, guess what? It's not about policy anymore. Because everybody knows what DeSantis has been doing in Florida. He's been a total savage in Florida in regards to getting policy done and righting wrongs as best as he can. Not Trump. Oh, you rigged the election? You fraud and Schneider me? Well, guess what? It's about revenge. I'm here to do your bidding if you get me back in the office. That's it. And if Scott seems to think that it's not a revenge tour, that basically that Donald Trump is going to go in there and try to right the wrongs instantly by executive order or what have you, he's got another thing coming, because that's what it is. It's not about doing things right or wrong per policy, per just law in general. It's about revenge, flat out. When it comes to counter-revolutions and revolutions, that's absolutely right. And again, this falls back into the revenge side. Democrats have been slapping us around for years. We haven't had anybody with balls since Reagan. What do we have since then? Nothing. Until Donald Trump came along and basically said the things that you wished you could say, that you wished other politicians would say. He did it. But there were a couple of things that he concentrated on. He concentrated on the border. He concentrated on trade. He concentrated on the economy. Those were the things. Now, it's no longer about that. When was the last time you saw Donald Trump running around, the debacle of the debate, that dementia patient basically did himself in, and Trump basically didn't have to do anything. All Trump had to do was just sit back and pop popcorn, pop popcorn in his mouth. That's all he had to do. That's all he had to do. When was the last time you saw Trump at a rally basically talk about policy? Policy A, policy B, policy C. No. Dementia patient, dementia patient, dementia patient. That's it. And that's what it is. And that's what the election is in a nutshell. 100 million people felt they got robbed in 2020. I'm one of them. Yes. Was it rigged? You bet. Was there fraud and Schneid? Absolutely. Were there other things that basically had done him in? Absolutely. The pandemic, and of course the wonderful summer of love. Those three things, the three-headed hydra, did Donald Trump in. And of course, dementia made it worse. Let's not forget about the lockdowns. Let's not forget about businesses being wrecked and destroyed, lives being destroyed, people getting hurt because of a vaccine, people getting ended regarding the wonderful magical vax. Let's not forget about that. People seem to think that just went away, that Donald Trump had a great 3 years. Yes, it's for 3 years he came roaring out of the gate, but year 4 is what did him in. So let's not forget about that. Let me finish this with this. To quote Steve Deace of The Blaze, "We're not a nation of laws and never have been. We're a nation of political wills and always will be." And with that being said, I'm Jazz Berganzo. This is What's Next. Want to see more like this? Please have a comment below. Like it, share it, subscribe to it, hit that notification bell so you guys never miss a thing. Continue spreading the word about the show. Continue watching. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next time. Peace.